Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. We were going deeper and deeper into the Srimad-Bhagavatam. We have our guests from Hong Kong, Jayashree and Lochana, and Bhakta Matt, who's been traveling with me and who is blossoming as a brahmachari, bhakta. And it's getting Krishna conscious. I was just talking to Lochana and she was saying how since she came here, something's changing inside. I think that's what you're saying. And it's a common experience that when we come from Western cultures or Far Eastern cultures to this place, Govardhan, which is so rich in spiritual history and deep in the fact that Krishna has eternal pastimes going on here all the time, and the atmosphere is so, the ether is so enriched and so deep. It goes into our, when we hear and chant, it goes into our, it's almost as if it goes into our bloodstream. You know, it's like it's an injection that goes into our bloodstream and acts whether we know it or not, whether we know anything about it or not. So anyway, here we are in the live studios in the Bhajan Kutir of yours truly. I've been here for 24 years and someday I hope to be able to stay here forever. But we have to take it out, and this is one way of doing it, this live stream reading of Srimad-Bhagavatam. So, Sanatana Goswami had something to say about the Srimad-Bhagavatam, didn't he? He wrote this Sri Krishna Lila Stava, which is a short book and written in very simple, what we call vocative Sanskrit, which is not very sophisticated, but it's meant to jog the memory. He wrote this after he wrote the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, and it's supposed to, his goal is to offer 108 obeisances to the Vrindavan Leela of Krishna, and at the same time remind us of the Leela in such a way that we can remember them. And his 107th obeisance to the pastimes of Krishna is this Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, 5 verses which glorify the Srimad-Bhagavatam itself, which take us to Krishna Leela. So it goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdipi Yusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidwandodita Ditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Mad Mahadana Mannishtaraga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu Saduta Dayin Adini Chotata Kada Hanamun Chagadachin Mam Prem Narit Kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 All right. So now that Krishna has arranged that Devahuti become the wife of Kardama, and they have lived together in the hermitage of Kardama, a sage living in the forest, even though beautiful ashram, as we've heard. But she's a princess, you know. Probably her feet never touched the ground before this. She's accustomed to the most opulent lifestyle, and she's protected and delicate. And after living with the sage and serving her husband very loyally and faithfully with love and affection, her body has become changed. It's thinner and it's emaciated and it's not at all like it was when she was living in the palace. And Kardama noticed this, and he felt great compassion. And because he was a very advanced yogi and rishi, mystic, he was able to give her spiritual advancement. So now he's doing that, and Devahuti is speaking to him in response. This is Canto 3, chapter 23, beginning with text number 10. Sri Devahuti said, "My dear husband, O best of Brahmanas, I know that you have achieved perfection and are the master of all infallible mystic powers, because you are under the protection of Yogamaya, the transcendental nature. But you once made a promise that our bodily union should now fulfill, since children are a great quality for a chaste woman who has a glorious husband." Purport. Devahuti expressed her happiness by uttering the word bhata, for she knew that her husband was in a highly elevated transcendental position and was under the shelter of Yogamaya. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, those who are great souls, Mahatmas, are not under the control of the material energy. The Supreme Lord has two energies, material and spiritual. The living entities are marginal energy. As marginal energy, a person may be under the control of the material energy or the spiritual energy, Yogamaya. Kardama Muni was a great soul, and therefore he was under the spiritual energy, which means that he was directly connected with the Supreme Lord. The symptom of this is Krishna consciousness, constant engagement in devotional service. This was known to Devahuti, yet she was anxious to have a son by bodily union with the sage. She reminded her husband of his promise to her parents. "I will remain only until the time of Devahuti's pregnancy." She reminded him that for a chaste woman to have a child by a great personality is most glorious. She wanted to be pregnant, and she prayed for that. The word stri means expansion. By bodily union of the husband and wife, their qualities are expanded. Children born of good parents are expansions of the parents' personal qualifications. Both Kardama Muni and Devahuti were spiritually enlightened. Therefore she desired from the beginning that first she be pregnant and then she be empowered with the achievement of God's grace and love of God. For a woman it is great ambition to have a son of the same quality as a highly qualified husband. Since she had the opportunity to have Kardama Muni as her husband, she also desired to have a child by bodily union. Text 11. Devahuti continued, "My dear Lord, I am struck by excited emotion for you. Therefore kindly make what arrangements must be made according to the scriptures, so that my skinny body, emaciated through unsatisfied passion, may be rendered fit for you. Also, my Lord, please think of a suitable house for this purpose. Purport. The Vedic literatures are not only full of spiritual instruction, but also instructive in how to prosecute material existence very nicely, with the ultimate aim of spiritual perfection. Devahuti asked her husband, therefore, how to prepare herself for sex life according to the Vedic instructions. Sex life is especially meant for having good children. The circumstances for creating good children are mentioned in Kama Shastra, the scripture in which suitable arrangements are prescribed for factually glorious sex life. Everything needed is mentioned in the scriptures. What sort of house and decorations should be there should be, what sort of dress the wife should have, how she should be decorated with ointments, scents, and other attractive features, etc. With these requisites fulfilled, the husband will be attracted by her beauty, and a favorable mental situation will be created. The mental situation at the time of sex life may then be transferred into the womb of the wife, and good children can come out of that pregnancy. Here is a special reference to Devahuti's bodily features. Because she had become skinny, she feared that her body might have no attraction for Kardama. She wanted to be instructed how to improve her bodily condition in order to attract her husband. Sexual intercourse in which the husband is attracted to the wife is sure to produce a male child, but sexual intercourse based on attraction of the wife for the husband may produce a girl. That is mentioned in the Ayurveda. When the passion of the woman is greater, there's a chance of a girl's being born. When the passion of the man is greater, there's a possibility of a son. Devahuti wanted the passion of her husband to be increased by the arrangement mentioned in the Kama Shastra. She wanted him to instruct her in that way, and she also requested that he arrange for a suitable house, because the hermitage in which Kardama Muni was living was very simple and completely in the mode of goodness. And there was less possibility of passions being aroused in his heart. Text 12. Maitri Muni continued, O Vidura, seeking to please his beloved wife, the sage Kardama exercised his yogic power and instantly produced an aerial mansion that could travel at his will. Purport. Here the words yogam astita are significant. The sage Kardama was completely perfect in yoga. As a result of real yoga practice, there are 8 kinds of perfection. The yogi can become smaller than the smallest, greater than the greatest, or lighter than the lightest. He can achieve anything he likes, and he can create even a planet. He can establish influence over anyone, etc. In this way, yogic perfection is achieved. And after this, one can achieve the perfection of spiritual life. Thus, it was not very wonderful for Kardama Muni to create a mansion in the air according to his own desire, to fulfill the desire of his beloved wife. He at once created the palace, which was described in the following verses. Text 13. It was a wonderful structure, bedecked with all sorts of jewels, adorned with pillars of precious stones, and capable of yielding whatever one desired. It was equipped with every form of furniture and wealth, which tended to increase in the course of time. Purport. The castle created in the sky by Kardama Muni may be called a castle in the air, but by his mystic power of yoga, Kardama Muni actually constructed a huge castle in the air. To our feeble imagination, a castle in the sky is an impossibility. But if we scrutinizingly consider the matter, we can understand that it is not impossible at all. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead can create many planets carrying millions of castles in the air, a perfect yogi like Kardama Muni can easily construct one castle in the air. The castle is described as Sarva Kama Dugam, yielding whatever one desired. It was full of jewels. Even the pillars were made of pearls and valuable stones. These valuable jewels and stones were not subject to deterioration, but were everlastingly and increasingly opulent. We sometimes hear of castles thus bedecked on the surface of this earth also. The castles constructed by Lord Krishna for his 16,108 wives were so bedecked with jewels that there was no need of lamplight during the night. Text 14 and 15. The castle was equipped with all necessary paraphernalia. It was pleasing in all seasons. It was decorated all around with flags, festoons, and artistic work of variegated colors. It was further embellished with wreaths of charming flowers that attracted sweetly humming bees, and with tapestries of linen, silk, and various other fabrics. Text 16. The palace looked charming, with beds, couches, fans, and seats, all separately arranged in 7 stories. Purport. It is understood from this verse that the castle had many stories. The words aparyupari vinyasta indicate that skyscrapers are not newly invented. Even in those days, millions of years ago, the idea of building many-storied houses was current. They contained not merely 1 or 2 rooms, but many different apartments, and each was completely decorated with cushions, bedsteads, sitting places, and carpets. Text 17. So here we have a perfect example of what we were just talking about before. Here are eloquent, Sanskrit passages which describe these things, and yet they're thinking they were barbarians that just imagined them. That's it. Its beauty was enhanced by artistic engravings here and there on the walls. The floor was of emerald with coral daisies. Purport. At the present moment, people are very proud of their architectural art, yet floors are generally decorated with colored cement. It appears, however, that the castle constructed by the yogic powers of Kardamamuni had floors of emerald with coral daisies. Text 18. The palace was very beautiful, with its coral thresholds and at the entrances, and its doors bedecked with diamonds. Gold pinnacles crowned its domes of sapphire. Text 19. With the choice of rubies set in its diamond walls, it appeared as though possessed of eyes. It was furnished with wonderful canopies and greatly valuable gates of gold. Purport. Artistic jewelry and decorations giving the appearance of eyes are not imaginary. Even in recent times, the Mughal emperors constructed their palaces with decorations of jeweled birds with eyes made of valuable stones. The stones have been taken away by the authorities, but the decorations are still present in some of the castles constructed by the Mughal emperors in New Delhi. The royal palaces were built with jewels and rare stones resembling eyes, and thus at night they would give off reflective light without need of lamps. Text 20. Here and there in the palace were multitudes of live swans and pigeons, as well as artificial swans and pigeons, so lifelike that the real swans rose above them again and again, thinking them live birds like themselves. Thus the palace vibrated with the sounds of these birds. Text 21. The castle had pleasure grounds, resting chambers, bedrooms, and inner and outer yards designed with an eye to comfort. All this caused astonishment to the sage himself. Purport. Kardama Muni was a saintly person. Being a saintly person, was living in a humble hermitage. But when he saw the palace constructed by his yogic powers, which was full of resting rooms, room for sex enjoyment, and inner and outer yards, he himself was astonished. That is the way of a God-gifted person. A devotee like Kardama Muni exhibited such opulence by his yogic power at the request of his wife, but when the opulence was produced, he himself could not understand how such manifestations could be possible. When the yogi's power is exhibited, the yogi himself is sometimes astonished. Text 22. When he saw Devahuti looking at the gigantic opulent palace with a displeased heart, Kardama Muni could understand her feelings because he could study the heart of anyone. Thus he personally addressed his wife as follows. Purport. Devahuti had spent a long time in the hermitage, not taking much care of her body. She was covered with dirt, and her clothing was not very nice. Kardama Muni was surprised that he could produce such a palace. And similarly, his wife, Devahuti, was also astonished. How could she live in that opulent palace? Kardama Muni could understand her astonishment, and thus he spoke as follows. 23. My dear Devahuti, you look very much afraid. First bathe in Lake Bindu Sarovara, created by Lord Vishnu himself, which can grant all desires of a human being, and then mount this airplane. Purport. It is still the system to go to places of pilgrimage and take a bath in the water there. In Vrindavan, the people take baths in the river Jamuna. In other places, such as Prayag, they take baths in the river Ganges. The words Tirtham Ashisham Yapakam refer to the fulfillment of desires by bathing in a place of pilgrimage. Kardama Muni advised his good wife to bathe in Lake Bindu Sarovara so that she could revive the former beauty and luster of her body. Text 24. The lotus-eyed Devahuti accepted the order of her husband. Because of her dirty dress and locks of matted hair in her head, she did not look very attractive. Purport. It appears that Devahuti's hair had remained uncombed for many years and had become complicated and tangles. In other words, she neglected her bodily dress and comforts to engage in the service of her husband. Text 25. Her body was coated with a thick layer of dirt, and her breasts were discolored. She dove, however, into the lake, which contained the sacred waters of the Saraswati. 26. In a house inside the lake, she saw 1,000 girls, all in the prime of youth and fragrant like lotuses. 27. Seeing her, the damsel suddenly rose and said with folded hands, "We are your maidservants. Tell us what we can do for you." Purport. While Devahuti was thinking of what to do in that great palace in her dirty clothes, there were at once, by the yogic powers of Kardama Muni, 1,000 maidservants prepared to serve her. They appeared before Devahuti within the water and presented themselves as her maidservants, simply awaiting her orders. 28. The girls, being very respectful to Devahuti, brought her forth, and after bathing her with valuable oils and ointments, they gave her fine, new, spotless cloth to cover her body. Text 29. They then decorated her with very excellent and valuable jewels, which shone brightly. Next they offered her food containing all good qualities and sweet, inebriating drink called asavam. Purport. Asavam is an Ayurvedic medical preparation. It is not a liquor. It is especially made from drugs, and is meant to improve metabolism for the healthy condition of the body. Text 30. Then in a mirror she beheld her own reflection. Her body was completely freed from all dirt, and she was adorned with a garland, dressed in unsullied robes, and decorated with auspicious marks of tilak. She was served very respectfully by the maids. Text 31. Her entire body, including her head, was completely bathed, and she was decorated all over with ornaments. She wore a special necklace with a locket. There were bangles on her wrists and tinkling anklets of gold around her ankles. Purport. The word Krita Shira Snanam appears here. According to the Smriti Shastra's directions for daily duties, ladies are allowed to take bath daily up to the neck. The hair on the head does not necessarily have to be washed daily, because the mass of wet hair may cause a cold. For ladies, therefore, taking a bath up to the neck is ordinarily prescribed, and they take a full bath only on certain occasions. On this occasion, Devahuti took a full bath and washed her hair very nicely. When the lady takes an ordinary bath, it is called Malasnana, and when she takes a full bath, including the head, it is called Shira Snana. At this time, she needs sufficient oil to smear on her head. That is the direction of the commentators of Smriti Shastra. Text 32. About her hips she wore a garland of gold, a girdle of gold, set with numerous jewels, and she was further adorned with a precious jewel necklace and auspicious substances. Purport. Auspicious substances include saffron, kumkum, and sandalwood pulp. Before taking a bath, there are other auspicious substances, such as turmeric, mixed with mustard seed oil, which are smeared all over the body. All kinds of auspicious substances were used to bathe Devahuti from top to toe. Her countenance shone with beautiful teeth and charming eyebrows. Her eyes, distinguished by lovely moist corners, defeated the beauty of lotus buds. Her face was surrounded by dark curling tresses. Purport. According to Vedic culture, white teeth are very much appreciated. Devahuti's white teeth increased the beauty of her face and made it look like a lotus flower. When a face looks very attractive, the eyes are generally compared to lotus petals and the face to a lotus flower. Text 34. When she thought of her great husband, the best of the sages, Kardama Muni, who was very dear to her, she, along with all the maidservants, at once appeared where he was. Purport. It appears from this verse that in the beginning Devahuti thought herself to be dirty and dressed in a very niggardly way. When her husband asked her to enter the lake, she saw the maidservants, and they took care of her. Everything was done within the water, and as soon as she thought of her beloved husband Kardama, she was brought before him without delay. These are some of the powers attained by perfect yogis. They can immediately execute anything they desire. Text 35. She was amazed to find herself surrounded by 1,000 maids in the presence of her husband and to witness his yogic power. Purport. Devahuti saw everything miraculously done, yet when brought before her husband, she could understand that it was all due to his great mystic, a yogic mystic power. She understood that nothing was impossible for a yogi like Kardama Muni. Text 36 and 37. The sage could see that Devahuti had washed herself clean and was shining forth as though no longer his former wife. She had regained her own original beauty as the daughter of a prince. Dressed in excellent robes, her charming breast duly girded, she was waited upon by 1,000 Gandharva girls. O destroyer of the enemy, his fondness for her grew, and he placed her on the aerial mansion. It's the word. Purport. Before her marriage, when Devahuti was brought by her parents before the sage Kardama, she was the perfectly beautiful princess, and Kardama Muni remembered her former beauty. But after her marriage, when she was engaged in the service of Kardama Muni, she neglected to care for her body like a princess, since there were no means for such care. Her husband was living in a cottage, and since he was always engaged in serving, and since she was always engaged in serving him, her royal beauty disappeared, and she became just like an ordinary maidservant. Now, after being bathed by the Gandharva girls by the order of Kardama Muni's yogic power, she regained her beauty, and Kardama Muni felt attracted to the beauty she had shown before the marriage. The real beauty of a young woman is her breasts. When Kardama Muni saw the breasts of his wife so nicely decorated, increasing her beauty many times, he was attracted, even though he was a great sage. Sripad Shankaracharya has therefore warned the transcendentalists that one who is after transcendental realization should not be attracted by the raised breasts of a woman, because they are nothing but an interaction of fat and blood within the body. 38. Though seemingly attached to his beloved consort while served by the Gandharva girls, the sage did not lose his glory. which was mastery over his self. In the aerial mansion, Kadamba Muni with his consort shone as charmingly as the moon in the midst of the stars in the sky, which causes rows of lilies to open in ponds at night. Purport. The mansion was in the sky, and therefore the comparison to the full moon and stars is very beautifully composed in this verse. Kardama Muni looked like the full moon, and the girls who surrounded his wife, Devahuti, seemed just like the stars. On a full moon night, the stars and the moon together form a beautiful constellation. Similarly, in that aerial mansion in the sky, Kardama Muni, with his beautiful wife and the damsels surrounding them, appeared like the moon and stars on a full moon night. Text 39. In that aerial mansion, he traveled to the pleasure valleys of Mount Meru, which were rendered all the more beautiful by cool, gentle, fragrant breezes that stimulated passion. In these valleys, the treasure of the gods, Kuvera, surrounded by beautiful women and praised by the Siddhas, generally enjoys pleasure. Kardama Muni also, surrounded by the beautiful damsels and his wife, went there and enjoyed for many, many years. Kuvera is one of the 8 demigods who are in charge of different directions of the universe. It is said that Indra is in charge of the eastern side of the universe, where the heavenly planet or paradise is situated. Similarly, Agni is in charge of the southeastern portion of the universe. Yama, the demigod who punishes sinners, is in charge of the southern portion. Niriti is in charge of the southwestern part of the universe. Varuna, the demigod in charge of the waters, is in charge of the western portion. Vayu, who controls the air and who has wings to travel in the air, is in charge of the northwestern part of the universe. And Kuvera, the treasurer of the demigods, is in charge of the northern part of the universe. All these demigods take pleasure in the valleys of Mount Meru, which is situated somewhere between the sun and the earth. In the aerial mansion, Kardama Muni traveled throughout the 8 directions, controlled by the different demigods described above. And as the demigods go to Mount Meru, he also went there to enjoy life. When one is surrounded by young, beautiful girls, sex stimulation naturally becomes prominent. Kardama Muni was sexually stimulated, and he enjoyed his wife for many, many years in that part of Mount Meru. But his sex indulgence was praised by many, many siddhas, beings who have attained perfection, because it was intended to produce good progeny for the good of universal affairs. Text 40. Satisfied by his wife, he enjoyed that in that aerial mansion, not only in Mount Meru, but in different gardens, known as Vaishrambaka, Surasana, Nandana, Pushpabhadraka, and Chaitraratya, and by the Manasa Sarovar lake. Text 41. He traveled in that way through the various planets as the air passes uncontrolled in every direction. Coursing through the air in that great and splendid aerial mansion, which could fly at his will, he surpassed even the demigods. Purport. The planets occupied by the demigods are restricted to their own orbits, but Kardama Muni, by his yogic power, can travel all over the different directions of the universe without restriction. The living entities who are within the universe are called conditioned souls. That is, they are not free to move everywhere. We are inhabitants of this earthly globe. We cannot move freely to other planets. In the modern age, man is trying to go to other planets, but so far he has been unsuccessful. It is not possible to travel to any other planets because by the laws of nature, even the demigods cannot move from one planet to another. But Kardama Muni, by his yogic power, could surpass the strength of the demigods and travel in space in all directions. The comparison here is very suitable. The words yata, anila, indicate that as air is free to move anywhere without restriction, so Kardama Muni unrestrictedly traveled in all directions of the universe. Text 42. What is difficult to achieve for determined men who have taken refuge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's lotus feet? His feet are the source of sacred rivers like the Ganges, which put an end to the dangers of mundane life. Purport. The words Yair Ashritas Tirthapadas Charana are significant here. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Tirthapad. The Ganges is called the sacred river because it emanates from the toe of Vishnu. The Ganges is meant to eradicate all the material distresses of the conditioned souls. For any living entity, therefore, who has taken shelter of the holy feet of the Lord, nothing is impossible. Kardama Muni is special not because he was a great mystic, but because he was a great devotee. Therefore it is said here that for a great devotee like Kardama Muni, nothing is impossible. Although yogis can perform wonderful feats as Kardama has already displayed, Kardama was more than a yogi because he was a great devotee of the Lord. Therefore he was more glorious than any ordinary yogi. As it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, out of the many yogis, he who is a devotee of the Lord is first class. For a person like Kardama Muni, there is no question of being conditioned. He was already a liberated soul, and better than the demigods, who are also conditioned. Although he was enjoying with his wife and many other women, he was above material conditional life. Therefore the word Vyasanaya is used to indicate that he was beyond the position of a conditioned soul. He was transcendental to all material limitations. Text 43. After showing his wife the globe of the universe and its different arrangements, full of many wonders, the great yogi Kardama Muni returned to his own hermitage. Purport. All the planets are here described as gola, round. Every planet is round. There's an interesting, isn't it? Gola. Praksharyatva bhuva golam patnyai yavan susamstaya. All the planets are here described as gola, round. Every planet is round, and each planet is a different shelter, just like islands in the great ocean. Planets are sometimes called Dvipa or Varsha. This planet Earth is called Bharatavarsha because it was ruled by King Bharat. Another significant word used in this verse is Bhavashayam, many wonderful things. This indicates that the different planets are distributed all over the universe in the 8 directions, and each and every one of them is wonderful in itself. Each planet has its particular climatic influences in particular types of inhabitants, and is completely equipped with everything, including the beauty of the seasons. In the Brahma Samhita, it is similarly stated, Vibhuti Binam, on each and every planet there are different opulences. It cannot be expected that one planet is exactly like another. By God's grace, by nature's law, each and every planet is made differently and has different wonderful features. All such wonders are personally experienced by Kardama Muni while he traveled with his wife. Yet he could return again to his humble hermitage. He showed his princess wife that although he was living in the hermitage, he had the power to go everywhere and do anything by mystic yoga. That is the perfection of yoga. One cannot become a perfect yogi simply by showing some sitting postures, nor by such sitting postures or so-called meditation can one become God as is being advertised. Foolish persons are misled into believing that simply by some caricature of meditation and sitting postures one can become God within 6 months. Here is the example of a perfect yogi. He could travel all over the universe. Similarly, there is a description of Durvasa Muni, who could travel, also traveled in space. Actually, the perfect yogi can do that. But even if one can travel all over the universe and show wonderful feats like Kardama Muni, he cannot be compared to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose power and inconceivable energy can never be attained by any conditioned or liberated soul. By the actions of Kardama Muni, we can understand that in spite of his immense mystic power, he remained a devotee of Lord. That is the real position of every living entity. Text 44. After coming back to his hermitage, he divided himself into 9 personalities just to give pleasure to Devahuti, the daughter of Manu, who was eager for sex life. In that way he enjoyed with her for many, many years, which passed just like a moment. That's a very important point. Here the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, Devahuti, purport. Here the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, Devahuti, is described as Suratok Sukha. After traveling with her husband all over the universe, in Mount Meru and the beautiful gardens of the heavenly kingdoms, she naturally became sexually stimulated, and in order to satisfy her sexual desire, Kardama Muni expanded himself into 9 forms. Instead of 1, he became 9, and 9 persons had sexual intercourse with Devahuti for many, many years. It is understood that the sexual appetite of a woman is 9 times greater than that of a man. That is clearly indicated here. Otherwise, Kardama Muni would have had no reason to expand himself into 9. Here is another example of yogic power. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead can expand himself in millions of forms, a yogi can also expand up to 9 forms, but not more than that. Another example is that of Sorabhi, Sobari Muni. He also expanded himself into 8 forms, but however powerful a yogi may be, he cannot expand himself into more than 8 or 9 forms. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, can expand himself into millions of forms, Ananta Rupa, innumerable, countless forms, as stated in the Brahma Samhita. No one can compare to the Supreme Personality of Godhead by any conceivable, energetic manifestation of power. Text 45. In that aerial mansion, Devahuti, in the company of her husband, situated in an excellent bed that increased sexual desires, could not realize how much time was passing. Purport. Sex indulgence is so enjoyable for materialistic people that when they engage in such activities, they forget how time is passing. Saint Kardama and Devahuti, in their sex indulgence, also forgot how time was passing by. Text 46. While the couple who eagerly longed for sexual pleasure were thus enjoying themselves by virtue of mystic powers, 100 autumns passed like a brief span of time. Text 47. The powerful Kardama Muni was the knower of everyone's heart, and he could grant whatever one desired. Knowing the spiritual soul, he regarded her as half his body. Divided himself into 9 forms, he impregnated Devahuti with 9 discharges of semen. Purport. Since Kardama Muni could understand that Devahuti wanted many children, at the first chance he begot 9 children at one time. He is described here as Vibhu, the most powerful master. By his yogic power, he could at once produce 9 daughters in the womb of Devahuti. Text 48. Immediately afterward, on the same day, Devahuti gave birth to 9 female children, all charming in every limb and fragrant with the scent of the red lotus flower. Purport. Devahuti was too sexually excited, and therefore she discharged more ova, and 9 daughters were born. It is said in the Smriti Shastra as well as in the Ayurveda, that when the discharge of the male is greater, male children are begotten. But when the discharge of the female is greater, female children are begotten. It appears from these circumstances that Devahuti was more sexually excited, and therefore she had 9 daughters at once. All the daughters, however, were very beautiful, and their bodies were nicely formed. Each resembled a lotus flower, and was fragrant like a lotus. Text 49. When she saw her husband about to leave home, she smiled externally, but at heart she was agitated and distressed. Purport. Kardama Muni finished his household affairs quickly by his mystic power. The building of a castle in the air, traveling all over the universe with his wife and a company of beautiful girls, and begetting of children were finished. And now, according to his promise to leave home for his real concern of spiritual realization, after impregnating his wife, he was about to go away. Seeing her husband about to leave, Devahuti was very disturbed, but to satisfy her husband, she was smiling. The example of Kardama Muni should be understood very clearly. A person whose main concern is Krishna consciousness, even if he is entrapped in household life, should always be ready to leave household enticement as soon as possible. Text 50. She stood and scratched the ground with her foot, which was radiant with the luster of her gem-like nails. Her head bent down, she spoke in slow, yet charming accents, suppressing her tears. Purport. Devahuti was so beautiful that her toenails appeared like pearls, and as she scratched the ground, it appears as if pearls had been thrown on the ground. When a woman scratches the ground with her foot, it is a sign that her mind is very disturbed. These signs were sometimes exhibited by the gopis before Krishna. When the gopis came in the dead of night and Krishna asked them to return to their homes, the gopis also scratched the ground like this because their minds were very disturbed. Text 51. Sri Devahuti said, "My Lord, you have fulfilled all the promises you gave me. Yet because I am your surrendered soul, you should give me fearlessness too." Purport. Devahuti requested her husband to grant her something without fear. As a wife, she was a fully surrendered soul to her husband, and it is the responsibility of the husband to give his wife fearlessness. How one awards fearlessness to a subordinate is mentioned in the 5th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam. One who cannot get free from the clutches of death is dependent, and he should not become a spiritual master, nor a husband, nor a kinsman, nor a father, nor a mother, etc. It is the duty of the superior to give fearlessness to the subordinate, to take charge of someone. Therefore, either as father, mother, spiritual master, relative, or husband, one must accept the responsibility to give his ward freedom from the fearful situation of material existence. Material existence is always fearful and full of anxiety. Devahuti is saying, "You have given me all sorts of material comforts by your yogic power, and since you are now prepared to go away, you must give me your last award so that I may get freed from this material conditional life." Text 52. My dear Brahmana, as far as your daughters are concerned, they will find their own suitable husbands and go away to their respective homes. But who will give me solace after your departure as a sannyasi? Purport. It is said that the father himself becomes the son in another form. The father and son are therefore considered to be non-different. A widow who has her son is actually not a widow because she has the representative of her husband. Similarly, Devahuti is indirectly asking Kardama Muni to leave a representative so that in his absence she might be relieved of her anxieties by a suitable son. A householder is not expected to remain at home for all his days. After getting his sons and daughters married, a householder can retire from household life, leaving his wife in charge of the grown-up sons. That is the social convention of the Vedic system. Devahuti is indirectly asking that in his absence from home, there be at least one male child to give her relief from her anxieties. This relief means spiritual instruction. Relief does not mean material comforts. Material comforts will end with the end of the body, but spiritual instruction will not end. It will go on with the spirit soul. Instruction in spiritual advancement is necessary, but without having a worthy son, how could Devahuti advance in spiritual knowledge? It is the duty of the husband to liquidate his debt to his wife. The wife gives her sincere service to the husband, and he becomes indebted to her, because one cannot accept service from his subordinate without giving him something in return, in exchange. The spiritual master cannot accept service from a disciple without awarding him spiritual instruction. That is the reciprocation of love and duty. Thus, Devahuti reminds her husband, Kardama Muni, that she has rendered him faithful service. Even considering the situation on the basis of liquidating his debt toward his wife, he must give a male child before he leaves. Indirectly, Devahuti requests her husband to remain at home a few more days, a few days more, or at least until a male child is born. Text 53. Until now we have simply wasted so much of our time in sense gratification, neglecting to cultivate knowledge of the Supreme Soul. These are such exalted souls, huh? Purport. Human life is not meant to be wasted like that of the animals in sense gratificatory activities. Animals always engage in sense gratification, eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating. But that is not the engagement of the human being, although because of the material body, there is need of sense gratification, according to a regulative principle. So in effect, Devahuti said to her husband, so far we have these daughters and we have enjoyed material life in the aerial mansion, traveling all over the universe. These boons have come by your grace, but they have all been for sense gratification. Now there must be something for my spiritual advancement. Text 54. Not knowing your transcendental situation, I have loved you while remaining attached to the object of the senses. Nevertheless, let the affinity I have developed for you rid me of all fear. Purport. Devahuti is lamenting her position. As a woman, she had to love someone. Somehow or other, she came to love Kardama Muni, but without knowing of his spiritual advancement, Kardama Muni could understand Devahuti's heart. Generally, all women desire material enjoyment. They are called less intelligent because they are mostly prone to material enjoyment. Devahuti laments because her husband had given her the best kind of material enjoyment, but she did not know that he was so advanced in spiritual realization. Her plea was that even though she did not know the glories of her great husband, because she had taken shelter of him, she must be delivered from material entanglement. Association with the great personality is most important. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya says that sadhu sangha, the association of a great saintly person, is very important, because even if one is not advanced in knowledge, simply by association with a great saintly person, one can immediately make considerable advancement in spiritual life. As a woman, an ordinary wife, Devahuti, as an ordinary wife, Devahuti became attached to Kardama Muni in order to satisfy her sense enjoyment and other material necessities. But actually, she associated with a great personality. Now she understood this, and she wanted to utilize the advantage of the association of her great husband. Association for sense gratification. Text 55. Association for sense gratification is certainly the path of bondage, but the same type of association performed with a saintly person leads to the path of liberation, even if performed without knowledge. Purport. The association of a saintly person in any way bears the same result. For example, Lord Krishna met many kinds of living entities, and some treated him as an enemy, and some treated him as an agent for sense gratification. It is generally said that the gopis were attached to Krishna for sense attractions, and yet they became first-class devotees of the Lord. Kamsa, Shishupal, Dantavakra, and other demons, however, were related to Krishna as enemies. But whether they associated with Krishna as enemies or for sense gratification, out of fear or as pure devotees, they all got liberation. That is the result of association with the Lord. Even if one does not understand who he is, the results have the same efficacy. Association with a saintly person also results in liberation, just as whether one goes toward fire, knowingly or unknowingly, the fire will make one warm. Devahuti expressed her gratefulness, for although she wanted to associate with Kardama Muni only for sense gratification, because he was spiritually great, she was sure to be liberated by his benediction. 56. Anyone whose work is not meant to elevate him to religious life, this is a very important verse. Neha yat karma dharmaya na viragaya kalpate na tirthapada sevayai jivan api mrito hisaha. Anyone whose work is not meant to elevate him to religious life, anyone whose ritualistic performances does not raise him to renunciation, and anyone situated in renunciation that does not lead him to devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead must be considered dead, although he is breathing. Purport. Devahuti's statement is that since she was attached to living with her husband for sense gratification, which does not lead to liberation from material entanglement, her life was simply a waste of time. Any work one performs that does not lead to the state of religious life is useless activity. Everyone is by nature inclined to some sort of work, and when that work leads one to religious life, and religious life leads one to renunciation, and renunciation leads one to devotional service, one attains the perfection of work. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, any work that does not lead ultimately to the standard of devotional service is a cause of bondage in the material world. Yagyar tat kamanonyatra lokoyam karmabandhanaha. Unless one is gradually elevated to the position of devotional service, beginning from his natural activity, he is to be considered a dead body. Work which does not lead one to the understanding of Krishna consciousness is considered useless. Text 57. My Lord, surely I have been solidly cheated by the insurmountable illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For in spite of having obtained your association, which gives liberation from material bondage, I did not seek such liberation. Purport. An intelligent man should utilize good opportunities. The first opportunity is the human form of life. And the second opportunity is to take birth in a suitable family where there is cultivation of spiritual knowledge. This is rarely obtained. The greatest opportunity is to have association of a saintly person. Devahuti was conscious that she was born as the daughter of an emperor. She was sufficiently educated and cultured, and at last she got Kardama Muni, a saintly person and a great yogi, as her husband. Still, if she did not get liberation from the entanglement of material energy, then certainly she would be cheated by the insurmountable illusory energy. Actually, the illusory material energy is cheating everyone. People do not know people do not know what they are doing when they worship the material energy in the form of goddess Kali or Durga for material boons. They ask, Mother, give me great riches, give me a good wife, give me fame, give me victory. But such devotees of the goddess Maya or Durga do not know that they are being cheated by that goddess. Material achievement is actually no achievement, because as soon as one is illusioned by the material gifts, he becomes more and more entangled, and there is no question of liberation. One should be intelligent enough to know how to utilize material assets for the purpose of spiritual realization. That is called karma yoga or jnana yoga. Whatever we have, we should use in service of the Supreme Person. It is advised in Bhagavad Gita, Swakarmana tamarbhyarcha. That's Bhagavad Gita 1846. One should try to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead by one's assets. There are many forms of service to the Supreme Lord, and anyone can render service unto Him according to the best of his ability. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 3rd canto, 23rd chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled Devahuti's Lamentation. Jai. Devahuti, Devi Dasi, ki jai. Madhava Muni, ki jai. Srimad-Bhagavatam, ki jai. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Okay. That went really fast, didn't it? You know, we were enjoying like anything. We read for an hour and 10 minutes. Just like that. Amazing. Transcendental sound. Transcendental consciousness. So you get a sense what it would be like to be in eternal life.
Yeah.
Where the material energy just goes. And look, the subject matter, all about sex and this and that and the other thing. And yet, here we are in a Bhajan Kutir in Govardhan, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
Simply amazing. Okay, so any reflections? Anyone have any points that came up in their mind during the reading that they want to reflect on or they want to ask questions about? Please.
I have a quick reflection.
Yes, please. Dr. Matt has a quick reflection. Here you go.
I just thought it was interesting how the way in which a child is conceived affects the child, like how the gender or sex of the child and their disposition and like everything has to do with that mood. And you can kind of take that into today's society where people don't even think about that, and you can see the result.
Exactly.
That's all I'm going to say on that.
That's what I was speaking to Lochan about before we started the reading. How it's a science, it's a spiritual science. And once you hear it, and then look at the world through it, then you can see things for what they are. And without that education, without that spiritual knowledge, what are you going to see?
Blind.
Yeah.
Lost.
But the point that really, of course, we're going to hear more about this now, and we'll hear some of the things I'm about to say, but what's really amazing is how Kardama Muni and Devahuti, who are about to become the father and mother of God, you can't become the father and mother of God or the mother of God unless you're liberated. So how persons could do what they just did and be liberated, and you could imagine what they just happened, and then all of a sudden he said, okay, I made a promise, I'm going now, and then just walk away like, I mean, in the material world you do that, you're so attached, you're so attracted and so entangled with material attachments, you couldn't even think about going away, you know? So this is the actual moral of the story, I guess you could say. that if the purpose is actually Krishna conscious, then it changes everything, you know. And this whole thing is being organized by Vishnu himself, because he was the one that came, you know, to Karma Muni after he'd done all these austerities for like 10,000 years, because they had really long lives. These personalities are not ordinary personalities, you know. I mean, even in the heavenly planets, this whole thing about sex is completely different there. There's no, it's not ordinary moral there like it is here, you know. When Arjuna went to the heavenly planets with Krishna, and he saw his father, Indra is his father, and so there was a very beautiful society girl, one of the most beautiful, Urvashi, and she saw Arjuna and she got attracted. So, you know, she went into Arjuna's bedroom at night and proposed to him that they have union. And Arjuna said, you know, you're with my father, you're like my mother, I can't. And she got really angry. She said, you shouldn't think like that. This is heaven. You know, we don't have those same morals as you do in the earth, you know. There's no problem. We come on, let's do it, you know. And he said, no, I can't do that. I mean, he's righteous. He's Arjuna. And she cursed him, you know. I can't remember what the curse was offhand.
You have a female body?
No, I can't remember. Anyway, we'll have to research that. But the point was, that's the point I was making, that in different parts of the universe, the laws aren't all the same, you know. But here we are on Earth, and like Matt just said, we have, if we want to go forward, if we want to progress, actually progress spiritually, and, you know, prepare ourselves for a better life, but to speak of the spiritual world, then we have to conform to the spiritual rules and regulations. This whole thing was being arranged by Vishnu, pastime, so he could fulfill the desire of Kardama, and he wanted to become the son, and Kardama wanted him to be the son. Okay, what else?
We had a nice comment by Devahuti. Devahuti says, I feel so fortunate that even though I have no knowledge and some of it is difficult for me to understand, that I can make advancement just by your association. I am fortunate for this and I thank you.
Wow. Hare Krishna. Well, it must be some kind of, you know, actually, the fact is that the kind of yogic power that Kardama had is a particular power that is enacted, not enacted, but is used externally for different purposes. But we can understand that by associating with Srila Prabhupada and by associating with the Srimad-Bhagavatam and the personalities that are there in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and if we actually surrender to this process, then we get mystic power. But we don't use it. We don't want to use it. You know, there was I remember very vividly because I was present in Hyderabad in 1975, and there was a huge pandal, and we had come down. This is the first very big festival in Mayapur, and also it was the same year that the Krishna Balaram Mandir was opened and the deities were installed. And he was cultivating some big people in Hyderabad, and they were trying to collect the Lakshmi to build a big temple, the Hyderabad temple. So there was a huge pandal, and Prabhupada was sitting on a big dais, like a stage, but it was really big. And there was about, I would say at least 50 or 60 of us sitting at his feet like this, And then out there were like at least 15,000 people. It was huge pandal, huge. Which is perfect, which is kind of evidence in itself of the spiritual culture of this place, they go, where do they go, that many people in the West? It's the football game or, cricket match or basketball or something. Anyway, and they had a microphone in front of the stage, and they allowed the sannyasis to select the people. They'd check their questions, and they'd come up and they'd allow them to ask a question to Prabhupada in public. So this one guy came up there and he said, "Swamiji, can you show us a miracle?" And Prabhupada just didn't hesitate at all. He went like this. "This is my miracle." Like that, and like that. And the whole crowd just erupted, it roared. And that many people going, "Hi-bo!" I don't remember exactly what they said, but it was breathtaking. Hair would stand on end. Everybody was just completely in ecstasy. So that's the point, that, the exhibition of mystic power by a devotee is to change the heart of another person. That's the ultimate mystic power. And that is done not by the will exactly of the devotee, but by Krishna, within the heart of the person and within the heart of the person who's hearing. So, I think Jesus said it to one of his followers who were healed or something, and was trying to glorify him, and he said, "No, it is your faith that has healed you," or something like that. He was giving credit to the person for the consciousness. So, anyway, whatever you said, Sudevi Dasi, it's your faith that allows you to see something in me that's of any value. Hare Krishna. It's just after 8 o'clock. I think we'll stop now. Wonderful reading. Glorious pastimes in Devahuti and Karbadamuni. Tomorrow we're going to hear the appearance of Kapila Deva, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So thank you all out there in cyberspace, and congratulations for getting a taste, for hearing the Srimad-Bhagavatam every day if possible, and if not, at least it's there on the Facebook page. You can read whenever it's convenient. Okay, I won't go so far as to glorify the founder of Facebook. It's a little mixed. There's mixed things going on there. But anyway, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Devahuti Devi Dasi ki jai. Kardama Muni ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hare Hare Bol. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow night.